how much of this resist as young coaches of going around just emulating who we see at the top, because we hear it all the time. I want to be like Pep or Jose or all these other guys. How do we know if we're stepping across those boundaries?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the greatest examples it was with what you mentioned was my father-in-law, Johan Cruyff, and basically he understood football at such a profound level. I think that inspired a generation of footballers with whom he worked, obviously. But if you asked him to put a PowerPoint presentation together, it was never going to happen. I always say, what is the secret sauce? What is the A to B? And Johan, as he said, in his own words, he said he thinks he was dyslexic before they invented the disease, right? And he was never going to go from A to B and then end up at Z, right? It wasn't going to happen, but he was very intuitive. So I think it is difficult. How does Kasparov see the chessboard? And what we do know from research is often the way that experts articulate what they believe they know and how they do it is not congruous. In other words, they're very poor articulators of the process that actually gets them. So, if you ask a football player how he became a top footballer, he may say, well, my mom fed me porridge, and that's why. Or another one may say, I had breakfast every morning with bananas, So we tend to assign things that we believe, and that becomes problematic in coaching. Oh, I must be successful because I had a hard coach. I was successful. My parents yelled at me, so I should yell at my children. All parents should yell at all their kids because that toughens them up. We know that experts sometimes are and oftentimes are not the best messengers with respect to the how to do it. But we do know that those people have tapped into some intuitive skills sets that they have. So if you come back to Pep Guardiola, he's a student of the game, but he is also a student of art and literature and Catalan culture. And so is that what made him a great coach? We could assign that. Maybe it's X's and O's. Maybe he sees space in a different relationship. But maybe it's possibly that he expanded his horizon outside of football and brought in intercultural dimensions into his game, such that makes him a better coach. That it's a tough question to answer, but I would suggest that the high coaches, and I do agree with many of the top coaches, we do have to make a clear distinction between what it is to coach Man United, Man City, or Barcelona, and what it is to coach our youth players. These are two different roles, and I couldn't agree more with my father-in-law on this. One is the development of players to maximize their potential within and beyond the field, and many of them won't stay on the professional fields, right? So the role of a youth coach is to educate and nurture and maximize a child's potential, and then figure out where that potential leads them. It could very well lead them into music, art, dance, or science or literature. A first-team coach, very clearly in professional football, has to win. And so they have to master the art of putting a performance of a group of men or women on the pitch and get the results that are required from their organization, be it the fans or the board or the first team or professional rankings. So I think that's where we go wrong. When you say, and you made a good point, when we start to YouTube things and say, well, Pep did this, so I should apply it to my kids here in Southern California, it doesn't work that way. Too many times we don't understand the why behind it, the when behind it, the for whom behind it. And until we understand the for whom are we coaching? Only then can we then begin to even intervene in a child's life. And it's not just about Pep's responsibility, because he has to win at Man City. That's his responsibility. But we have to nurture the children that are going to go on well beyond football and be leaders in society beyond the game. So I think we have to make a very clear and rigid distinction between youth coaching and the qualities we need as youth coaches and the objectives of youth coaching and first team coaching. And oftentimes young coaches try to emulate those master coaches, but put it in the wrong environment, if that makes sense.